My name is Ivy Ellison, and I was 30 years old when I woke up in intensive care and realized the people I had spent my life protecting had left me behind. There was a tube in my arm, a monitor beside my bed, and a nurse saying my heart had nearly stopped after my body gave out from exhaustion. I tried to ask where my family was, but my throat felt like sandpaper. The nurse looked away for half a second too long, and that was how I knew the answer was bad. My father had taken my mother and my sister to Hawaii while I was unconscious. Not a delayed trip. Not an emergency return flight. They had boarded the plane the same day the hospital told them I needed to be watched in ICU. The trip was paid for with my money. The hotel, the flights, the photos by the ocean. All of it. For 5 days I was surrounded by machines, strangers, and glass walls, while my family posted smiling pictures under palm trees. Then my father came back. He did not run to my room. He did not ask if I remembered what happened. He stormed to the front desk, sunburned and angry, demanding the hospital release me because I was making everything more complicated than it needed to be. The woman at the desk told him there was a record he needed to review first. I watched from the hallway as he took the visitor log and flipped through it. One name appeared again and again. Every night. Hours at a time. A man I had never been told existed. My father stopped breathing for a moment. His face turned gray. Then he staggered back and shouted, "No, this cannot be real. Before I tell you whose name was on that visitor log, tell me where you are watching from and what the weather is like there. I want to know how far this story travels." Because what happened next did not just expose a secret. It destroyed the family lie I had been carrying for 30 years. Before the ICU, before the visitor log, before my father's face turned the color of wet cement, my life had already been shrinking around one word: family. My father's name was Martin Ellison, and in our house, his word was treated like weather. You did not argue with it. You adjusted your life around it. My mother, Paula, was softer in public, but behind closed doors she always stood beside him, even when standing beside him meant stepping over me. My younger sister, Brenna, was the one everyone protected. She was 26, pretty in that effortless social media way, always filming coffee cups, hotel mirrors, airport windows, and calling it work. I was the responsible one. That was the label they gave me when I was too young to understand it was not a compliment. I lived in Boston and worked as a senior cybersecurity incident lead at Sentinel Harbor Systems, a company that protected hospital networks from ransomware attacks. My job was stressful, but it mattered. When a hospital system went down, surgeries were delayed, patient records vanished, and real people suffered. I was good at what I did, and because I was good, people kept asking more from me. My salary looked impressive on paper, but paper did not show the money that disappeared every month. Martin's company needed help covering payroll. Paula needed her credit card paid before it affected her church committee image. Brenna needed a new camera, a new editing laptop, a new apartment deposit, a new brand trip outfit, a new emergency that somehow always came with a luxury receipt. For 6 years, I kept a spreadsheet hidden in a folder called Taxes. Every transfer, every check, every promise that they would pay me back. $163,000. That number stared at me one Sunday night while Martin sat on speakerphone saying, "Ivy, don't make this difficult. Brenna's Hawaii trip is important. It is not a vacation. It is an opportunity. She has brands watching her. If she does this right, it could change her life." I was sitting on my kitchen floor with my laptop open, because I had been too tired to make it to the couch. Hawaii was supposed to be Brenna's engagement content trip, a soft launch for her wedding series, plus meetings with 2 boutique travel sponsors she had been chasing for months. Martin, Paula, and Brenna were all going. I was not. I had work, and honestly, I was relieved. But somehow I was still paying. Flights, hotel upgrade, rental car, photographer deposit, welcome dinner deposit, $11,400 before anyone had even packed a bag. I told Martin I could not cover more. He got quiet, and that was worse than yelling. Then he said, After everything this family has given you, you are really going to count dollars now? I laughed once, not because it was funny, but because my body did not know what else to do. What exactly had they given me? A last name? A bedroom with the smallest window? A childhood where love came with invoices? Martin said, "You have no husband, no children, no real obligations outside that computer job. Your sister is building a future. Stop acting like helping her is some kind of punishment." Paula added gently, "Honey, you know Brenna is more fragile than you. You have always been stronger." That sentence followed me my whole life. You are stronger. Translation, you need less. You can take more. You can be hurt and still function. So I transferred the money. I told myself it was the last time. People like me always say that. The last time becomes a bridge to the next time. That night, as I stared at the confirmation screen, I noticed something small but familiar. My hands were shaking. My chest felt tight. My head pulsed behind my eyes. I had been ignoring those signs for weeks. Martin would have said I was being dramatic. Paula would have said I needed sleep. Brenna would have sent me a sad face emoji and then asked if I could also cover her spray tan appointment. None of them would have asked why a 30-year-old woman with a six-figure job looked like she was slowly disappearing. I closed the spreadsheet and opened my work dashboard. A hospital client in Rhode Island had just flagged suspicious traffic. Another long night was starting, and I had no idea it would be the beginning of the end of my old life. The week I collapsed, Sentinel Harbor was handling the biggest crisis we had ever seen. A regional hospital network had been hit with a coordinated cyber attack, and my team was responsible for containing it before patient systems went completely dark. I had been living on black coffee, protein bars, and 3 hours of sleep. My calendar looked like a crime scene. Incident review at 6 a.m., executive briefing at 8, vendor call at 10, legal call at noon, client war room until dinner, then overnight monitoring because attackers love the hours when exhausted people make mistakes. My boss told me I was the only person who could keep all the pieces together. That sounded like trust. It was really pressure wearing a nice jacket. By Wednesday, I was forgetting basic words. By Thursday, I had to hold the edge of my desk when I stood up too fast. By Friday, my heart would suddenly start racing while I was sitting still, like my body was trying to run away without me. I almost called my doctor, but Martin called first. He needed me to review a vendor payment for his company because one of his checks had bounced. I said, "Dad, I am not feeling well." He sighed like my health was poor customer service. "Ivy, everybody is tired. You think I was never tired raising you? Brenna is leaving tomorrow. Do not ruin this week." That word, ruin, hit me harder than it should have. I had not yelled. I had not refused. I had simply said I was not well, and somehow that became a threat to Brenna's happiness. Paula took the phone and softened the blade. "Sweetheart, your father is stressed. Just help him tonight, and then rest this weekend." But I was on call that weekend. They knew that. They just did not care. At 11:18 p.m. that night, I was alone in Sentinel Harbor's Boston office, staring at 3 monitors full of server logs. The city outside the windows was black and silver. Inside, the lights were too bright, the air too cold, and my body felt like it belonged to someone else. I reached for my water bottle and missed. My fingers brushed the plastic but would not close around it. I remember looking at my hand and thinking, that is strange. Then the numbers on the screen blurred. A line of code stretched sideways like it was melting. My chest tightened, not sharply, but heavily, like someone had placed a stone under my ribs. I tried to stand. The floor tilted. I remember the sound of my chair rolling backward. I remember thinking I should call someone, not my father, not my mother, someone useful. Then everything went white at the edges and disappeared. A security guard found me 12 minutes later. By midnight, I was in an ambulance. By 12:41 a.m., I was at Commonwealth Medical Center. I only know this because the nurse told me later. My official diagnosis was severe exhaustion complicated by acute myocarditis, dangerous arrhythmia, dehydration, and stress-induced cardiac instability. In normal words, my heart had been inflamed, overworked, underfed, and ignored until it nearly gave out. Because I was unconscious and unstable, the hospital called my emergency contact. Martin did not answer the first call, or the second, or the third. At 6:32 a.m., he finally picked up. The note in my file said, "Father notified. Family states they will arrive shortly." They arrived at 9:10. Martin, Paula, and Brenna. My family stayed for 28 minutes. 28 minutes after 30 years. Brenna did not come close to the bed. She stayed near the doorway because, according to the nurse, hospitals made her anxious and she did not want to cry before her flight. Paula asked whether I could hear them. Martin asked how long ICU observation usually lasted and whether discharge could happen quickly if I woke up. The doctor told him I was stable but critical. Stable but critical. Martin heard only the first word. At 10:04 a.m., he stepped into the hallway and called the airline. At 10:16, Paula asked the nurse if the hospital would call them if anything changed. At 10:22, Brenna posted a picture of her suitcase with the caption, "Trying to stay positive before paradise." At 10:31, they left. Their flight to Honolulu departed that evening. The tickets were non-refundable. The hotel was non-refundable. The photographer was non-refundable. Apparently, I was the only thing in their lives they were willing to leave behind. Before they boarded, Martin left me a voicemail. His voice was calm, almost annoyed. "Ivy, the doctors say you are stable. We are going to continue with the Hawaii trip because there is nothing we can do sitting around a hospital. Do not panic when you wake up. We will check in. Try not to make this harder on your mother and sister." He did not say he loved me. He did not say he was scared. He did not say he was sorry. The voicemail ended with airport noise in the background and Brenna laughing about needing a window seat. The first night my family was in Hawaii, a man walked into Commonwealth Medical Center just after midnight. He was not dressed like someone who had rushed from bed. He wore a dark coat over a white shirt, no tie, silver hair combed back, face pale in a way that had nothing to do with age. He went to the front desk and asked for the ICU floor. The receptionist asked who he was visiting. He said my name, Ivy Ellison. She asked his relationship to me. He paused long enough that she looked up from the computer. Then he said, "Family." His name was Caleb Winslow. I did not know that yet. I did not know he took the elevator to the 5th floor, walked to the glass wall outside my room, and stopped like his body could not cross an invisible line. I did not know he stood there for nearly 2 hours without sitting down. The night nurse, Dana Ruiz, noticed him because ICU nurses notice everything. He did not pace. He did not make calls. He did not bother staff or demand information he had no legal right to receive. He just watched the monitors through the glass and looked at me like he was counting every breath. Dana finally approached him and asked if he needed help. He said, "I just need to know she is not alone." Dana asked if he wanted to go in. He looked at the door, then back at me. "Not yet," he said. "I am not sure I deserve to." That sentence stayed with Dana. She told me later that most families in ICU either fall apart loudly or cling tightly. Caleb did neither. He carried grief like a glass of water filled to the rim, careful not to spill it because someone else might slip. Before he left, Dana asked him to sign the visitor record. He wrote Caleb Winslow, relationship, family, arrival, 12:14 a.m., departure, 2:31 a.m. The next night, he came back earlier. This time he brought a folder. He asked to speak with the attending physician, not as someone trying to control me, but as someone offering relevant medical history. He said there was a family pattern of cardiac inflammation, arrhythmia, and sudden collapse under physical stress. He said, "I understand privacy rules. I am not asking you to confirm anything you cannot confirm. I am asking you to consider this information if it helps her." The doctor took the folder. That information changed the way they monitored me. They ordered additional tests. They adjusted medication. They caught a dangerous rhythm pattern before it turned into something worse. Caleb did not save me because he was rich or powerful. He saved me because he showed up with the one thing my family had never bothered to give me: attention. On the third night, he finally stepped into my room. Dana watched through the glass as he stood beside the bed. He did not touch my hand at first. He looked terrified of disturbing me. After a long time, he pulled the visitor chair closer and sat down. Dana could not hear what he said, but she saw his mouth move. Later, when she asked him, he only said, "I told her I was sorry it took me so long." For 5 days, his name filled the visitor log. Caleb Winslow, 11:52 p.m. to 2:40 a.m. Caleb Winslow, 10:18 p.m. to 1:05 a.m. Caleb Winslow, 12:03 a.m. to 4:11 a.m. Caleb Winslow, every night. Martin Ellison, no entries after the first morning. Paula Ellison, no entries. Brenna Ellison, no entries. When I woke up, my throat burned and my body felt broken into separate pieces. The first clear thing I saw was the empty chair beside my bed. The second was a folded blanket placed carefully at my feet. The third was a paper cup of ice water with a straw bent toward me, as if someone had thought about the exact angle my weak hand could reach. Dana came in and smiled like she had been waiting for me to return from somewhere far away. "You scared us," she said. I tried to speak, but only a scratch came out. "Family?" Her smile dimmed. "They are in Hawaii." I closed my eyes. Even half sedated, even surrounded by machines, I felt humiliation before sadness. Of course they were. Then Dana said, "But you were not alone. There was someone here every night." I opened my eyes again. "Who?" She hesitated, then handed me the tablet with the visitor log. One name, over and over: Caleb Winslow. I stared at it until the letters stopped looking like letters and started feeling like a door I had been standing in front of my entire life without knowing it was there. Martin came back from Hawaii on the 5th day, not because he missed me, but because something at home needed me. I learned later that his business account had been frozen after a payment dispute, and the only person who knew how to access the backup documents was me. Brenna also had a sponsor invoice that needed to be corrected before she could get paid for the Hawaii content. So my father, who had not returned when my heart was unstable, returned when his money was. He arrived at Commonwealth Medical Center wearing a linen shirt and an expensive sunburn. Paula was behind him, quiet and nervous. Brenna trailed after them, looking irritated, like the hospital had interrupted her vacation mood board. Martin did not come straight to my room. He went to the front desk and announced that he was taking his daughter home. The receptionist, a woman named Maribel, checked the chart and told him I was not cleared for discharge. Martin leaned forward and lowered his voice in that way men do when they believe volume is beneath them, but control is not. "I am her father. I decide what is best for her." Maribel stayed polite. "Sir, your daughter is an adult patient. The medical team has to clear her, and she has to consent." He snapped that I was confused, that the hospital was overreacting, that ICU charges were ridiculous, and that I had always been dramatic under pressure. Then he said something that made Maribel look at him differently. He said, "I want to know who has been coming in here and filling her head with nonsense." Maribel told him there had been a patient advocate inquiry and repeated visits by a listed family contact. Martin froze. What family contact? Maribel said that before she could discuss any care access details, he would need to review and verify the visitor record because there appeared to be a relationship dispute. She turned the tablet toward him. I was sitting in a wheelchair near the ICU doors because Dana had just taken me for a short supervised walk. I saw Martin take the tablet. I saw his thumb swipe once, twice, 3 times. I saw the exact second his world cracked. Caleb Winslow. Caleb Winslow. Caleb Winslow. Every night. Family. Martin's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Paula stepped closer, saw the name, and grabbed the counter like her knees had failed. Brenna said, "Dad, what is wrong with you?" Martin backed away from the desk, still holding the tablet. His face had gone gray, not pale, gray, like something inside him had spoiled. Then he shouted, "No! This cannot be real!" People in the lobby turned. Maribel reached for the tablet, but Martin clutched it like it was evidence from a crime scene. Paula whispered, "Martin, please." That was when I knew she knew. Maybe not everything, but enough. I rolled myself closer even though Dana told me to wait. My voice was weak, but it carried. "Who is Caleb Winslow?" Martin spun toward me. For the first time since I had woken up, he looked frightened of me. Not for me, of me. He said, "Ivy, go back to your room." I asked again, "Who is he?" Brenna looked between us, suddenly less annoyed. Paula started crying silently. Martin pointed at her. "Do not say a word." His voice was pure panic now. That did not sound like a father protecting his daughter. It sounded like a man guarding a locked basement while smoke leaked under the door. Maribel called security, not because anyone had been violent, but because the lobby had gone too still. Martin stepped toward me and said, "That man is nobody. He has no right to be near you." I looked at the visitor log still glowing in his hand. "He was here more than you were." That sentence landed harder than any scream. Martin's jaw tightened. "You do not understand what he is." Paula suddenly sobbed. "Martin, enough." He turned on her so fast Brenna flinched. Paula covered her mouth, but the truth had already started moving. She said, "Ivy, I am sorry. I am so sorry." I felt the air change around me. Dana came to stand behind my wheelchair, one hand on the handle, steadying me without making me feel weak. Martin said, "Paula, I swear to God." Paula looked at him with 30 years of fear and said, "She almost died. He found her because we left her. Maybe God is done letting us bury this." Brenna whispered, "Bury what?" Nobody answered her. Martin's eyes went from Paula to me to the tablet. And suddenly, the man who had spent my life telling me I owed him looked like the one who owed a debt too large to survive. Later, pieces came out fast and ugly. Caleb Winslow had known Paula before she married Martin. He had loved her. She had gotten pregnant before Caleb left for a Navy medical assignment overseas. Martin, already pursuing Paula, convinced her Caleb would not come back. Then, after I was born, he sent Caleb a letter. Not from Paula, from himself, pretending to speak for the family. The letter said the baby had not survived. It said Paula wanted no contact. It said any further attempts would be considered harassment. Caleb believed his daughter was dead. Paula said she did not know about the exact letter until years later, but she knew enough. She knew Martin had made Caleb disappear from our lives. She knew I was not Martin's biological daughter. She stayed silent because the lie gave her a house, a husband, a name, and a story people respected. Martin raised me because leaving would have exposed him, but he punished me because every time he looked at me, he saw the man he had erased. That was the 30-year secret. Not an affair. Not a mistake. A theft. He had stolen a father from his daughter and a daughter from her father, then made me spend my life paying rent inside his lie. Security escorted Martin away from the front desk, but not out of the hospital. Men like Martin do not leave when they are exposed. They try to rewrite the scene. He came to my ICU room 20 minutes later with Paula behind him, and Brenna crying in the hallway, mascara streaking down her face like she had just discovered tragedy was not good content. I was back in bed by then, exhausted. Heart monitor attached, hands cold under the blanket. Martin walked in without asking permission. Dana followed him and stood near the door. He looked at her and said, "This is a family matter." She looked at me. I said, "She stays." That was the first time I had ever contradicted him in a room full of people. He blinked like I had slapped him. Then he tried the old voice, the calm, disappointed one. "Ivy, you are sick. You are confused. This man has manipulated the hospital. He is trying to insert himself into our family because he thinks there is money involved." I almost laughed. Caleb had been sitting outside my ICU room while Martin was in Hawaii, asking me through voicemail not to make things harder. Money was not the reason Caleb came. Money was the reason Martin came back. I asked, "Did you tell him I died?" Martin did not answer. Paula covered her face. That was answer enough? I asked again, slower. Did you tell Caleb Winslow that his baby died? Martin said. I did what I had to do to protect this family. There it was. Not denial, just justification. Protect this family. I had heard that phrase my whole life. It meant protect his image, protect his comfort, protect his authority. Never protect me. Paula finally spoke. Caleb was your father before Martin ever signed a birth certificate. The monitor beside me beeped faster. I knew. The moment I saw Martin's face at the visitor log, part of me knew. But hearing it still felt like falling through a floor I had trusted for 30 years. Brenna stepped into the doorway, shaking her head. So Ivy is not even Dad's real daughter? Dana's eyes flashed, but I raised a hand before she could speak. I looked at Brenna and said, I am real. That is the problem everyone kept trying to hide. A few minutes later, Caleb appeared outside the glass. He did not barge in. He knocked softly on a hospital door that was already open, because respect was apparently possible even in a disaster. Dana asked me if I wanted him inside. Martin said, Absolutely not. I said, Yes. Caleb entered slowly. Up close, I saw things that made my throat tighten. The same blue-gray eyes, the same line between the eyebrows when worried. The same way his left hand curled slightly when he was trying not to show emotion. He stopped several feet from the bed. Ivy, he said, and my name sounded different in his voice. Not like a demand, like a prayer he had been afraid to say out loud. Martin snapped, You have no right to be here. Caleb did not look at him. He kept his eyes on me. If you want me to leave, I will. I asked, Did you think I was dead? His face broke. Only for the first 18 years. The room went silent. He told me he had received Martin's letter while stationed overseas. He had tried to call, but the number was disconnected. He had written twice, and both letters came back. Years later, he saw Paula from a distance at a charity event in Boston. She had a teenage daughter with blue-gray eyes. He knew before he could prove it. He hired an investigator, then a lawyer, but every attempt to contact the family was blocked. Martin threatened restraining orders. Paula refused meetings. Caleb did not want to destroy the life he believed I had. That was his mistake, he said. I thought staying away was painful, but noble. I thought if you were loved, I could live with being erased. Then his eyes shifted just once to Martin. I did not know you were being used as a punishment for my existence. Martin barked that Caleb was playing the hero. Caleb finally looked at him. No. A hero arrives on time. I arrived 30 years late. But you left her in intensive care for a vacation she paid for, so do not speak to me about right and wrong. Martin's face twisted. He said I was ungrateful. He said blood did not make a father. For once, I agreed with him. Blood did not make a father. Neither did a birth certificate. Neither did 30 years of using the word daughter while treating me like an invoice. I told Martin to leave. He stared at me like the sentence did not translate. I said it again. Leave my room. Paula reached for my hand, but I pulled away. You too, I said. Brenna started crying harder, saying she did not know, as if not knowing erased everything she had taken. I looked at her and said, The money stops today. The shared cards close today. The emergency transfers are over. Martin's expression changed from shock to rage, and that was when I understood something with perfect clarity. Losing me did not scare him. Losing access to me did. Caleb stepped aside as security came back. He did not touch Martin. He did not threaten him. He simply stood there, calm and solid, while the family that had abandoned me was removed from the room they had never truly belonged in. After they were gone, I cried so hard my chest hurt. Caleb looked like every tear cut him. He asked if I wanted him to go. I shook my head. I did not call him Dad. Not yet. That word was too heavy, too wounded, too new. I only said, Can you sit with me for a while? His eyes filled. Yes, he said. As long as you want. He sat in the chair beside my bed, the chair that had been empty for 5 days. and for the first time since I woke up, the room did not feel like a place where I had been left. It felt like a place where someone had finally found me. I left Commonwealth Medical Center 11 days after I collapsed. Caleb drove me home, not in a dramatic movie scene kind of way, but carefully, quietly, with a paper bag of prescriptions on the floor and discharge instructions folded in his coat pocket. He did not ask to come upstairs. He did not ask for a title. He simply carried my bag to the lobby of my apartment building and said, "I am here when you are ready, and if ready takes time, I understand." That was the first gift he gave me after the truth. Space. Martin had never given me space. He filled every silence with obligation. He called the next morning, then Paula called, then Brenna, then Martin again from a different number. I did not answer. Instead, I did things I should have done years earlier. I froze the shared card. I changed every password. I removed Martin from emergency contact forms. I sent one written message to all three of them. "I am recovering. Do not contact me for money. Do not come to my apartment. Any further financial account issues will go through an attorney." Martin responded within 4 minutes. "You are making a mistake. Everything I did was to protect you." That was the last message of his I read for a long time. Caleb helped me find a lawyer, a calm woman named Denise, who specialized in family financial abuse and identity misuse. We discovered Martin had used my name as a guarantor on 2 business credit applications. He had also listed me as a silent financial backer for a renovation contract, without my consent. He thought because I was his daughter, my name was his property. Denise disagreed. Strongly. Within a month, legal letters went out. Within 2 months, Ellison Home Restoration lost a major client when the dispute became known in Martin's local business circle. People who had praised him as a family man suddenly had questions. Why had he gone to Hawaii while his daughter was in ICU? Why had another man been at her bedside every night? Why was there a lawsuit involving forged financial documents? Martin hated questions he could not control. Paula moved into her sister's guest room in Worcester. She sent me one letter, handwritten, 6 pages long. It was not enough. Maybe no apology could ever be enough. But for the first time, she did not blame fear, timing, or survival. She wrote, "I chose comfort over truth, and you paid for it." I kept the letter. I did not answer it right away. Forgiveness is not a vending machine where someone inserts an apology and receives access to you again. Brenna's Hawaii content never launched the way she planned. The brand partners pulled back when family drama spilled into her comment section after one of Martin's former clients posted about the lawsuit. Her engagement did not end immediately, but it cracked. Her fiancé's family wanted distance from the mess. For years, Brenna had believed softness meant everyone else should cushion her fall. Now there was no one left under her. As for me, I did not rush back to work like the old Ivy would have. Sentinel Harbor gave me medical leave. My team handled the client crisis without me, which taught me something uncomfortable and freeing. The world did not collapse when I rested. When I returned, I negotiated a healthier role, more authority, better boundaries, and no overnight heroics without rotation. I had spent years thinking exhaustion proved loyalty. It did not. It only proved I had been trained to ignore my own alarms. Caleb and I built our relationship slowly. Coffee on Sundays, short walks when my cardiologist allowed it. Awkward questions that should have belonged to childhood. What music do you like? Do you hate olives too? Were you good at math? Did you always bite your lip when concentrating? Sometimes we laughed. Sometimes we sat in silence because 30 years cannot be repaired with one emotional conversation in a hospital room. But he showed up. Every time. Not perfectly, not magically, consistently. One Sunday, he brought a small box of old letters he had written to the daughter he thought he lost. He had never mailed them because there was nowhere to send them. I read the first one in my apartment with my hands shaking. It began, "If you had lived, I would have told you that you were wanted." I cried for the woman I had been, the girl who thought love had to be earned in bank transfers and silence, the child who tried to become useful enough to keep. Martin once told me family was the people who gave you their name. He was wrong. A name can be used like a leash. Real family is the person who shows up when there is nothing to gain, the person who sits beside the glass door even when they are not sure they are allowed in, the person who protects your life instead of your usefulness. The lesson I learned was not that blood fixes everything. It does not. Blood can lie. Marriage can lie. A birth certificate can lie. But actions tell the truth. If someone only loves you when you are paying, serving, rescuing, or staying quiet, that is not love. That is control with sentimental language. Setting boundaries with people who drain you is not cruelty. It is education for your own heart. It teaches you that your body matters, your peace matters, your future matters, and you do not have to become smaller so other people can feel comfortable. I almost died before I understood that. I hope you do not have to. If there is someone in your life who treats your exhaustion like an inconvenience, listen to what your body is trying to tell you. If there is someone standing quietly outside the glass door of your life, waiting with care instead of demands, maybe let yourself notice them. Because the people who leave you in ICU for paradise will always have an excuse. The people who love you will find a chair, sit down, and stay. The Revenge Broken Trust team is working hard to create meaningful, emotional, and well-crafted stories that deliver powerful lessons to every viewer. This story is completely fictional and created for educational purposes, with the hope of sharing positive values, valuable knowledge, and thoughtful life lessons through storytelling. Thank you so much for listening to this story. If it touched you in any way, please support us with a follow so we can stay motivated to create even more powerful, high-quality, and engaging videos for you.